Today we're talking about the financial world's most important watchdog, the company auditor. They're the essential gatekeepers of trust, the ones who make sure the numbers are real. We're going to dig into how this whole system actually works.
So let me ask you this. How do you really know a company is doing well financially? Beyond the press releases and the fancy reports. The law has an answer for that, and it all comes down to one role, the independent company auditor.
All right, here's what we're going to cover. We'll look at who can even become an auditor, the rules that keep them independent, how they get hired, how long they can stay, what happens when they leave, and, most importantly, why all of this is so crucial for a healthy economy.
Okay, so first things first. Who is even allowed to take on this massive responsibility? Well, the law is super specific about this.
The baseline requirement, you have to be a chartered accountant with a valid certificate of practice. Now, a whole firm, even a limited liability partnership or LLP, can be appointed as the auditor. But here's the catch. Only the partners in that firm who are CAs themselves can actually sign the audit report. At the end of the day, a qualified person has to put their name on the line.
But just having the right credentials isn't nearly enough. The most critical quality for an auditor is independence. To protect that, the law basically builds a giant wall of disqualifications to prevent any conflicts of interest right from the get-go.
And I can't stress this enough. This is the absolute heart of the matter. The entire system is designed to make sure an auditor can give a truly unbiased opinion, without being swayed by the company's management, their own finances, or anything else. So, who's automatically disqualified? Well, the list is pretty logical when you think about it. Obviously, a company's own officers or employees can't audit themselves. Neither can their direct business partners or employees. If your close relative is a director or a key manager at the company, nope, you're out. And of course, if you have significant financial connections to the company, that's a no-go. Oh, and you can't be spread too thin. Auditing more than 20 companies at once is also a disqualifier.
Now, the law doesn't just vaguely say significant financial ties. It gets very, very specific with hard numbers. It draws some clear red lines you just can't cross.
For instance, a relative of the auditor can't hold shares worth more than 1 lakh rupees in face value. If they accidentally go over, there's a 60-day window to fix it. But that limit is firm.
And the same idea applies to debt. The auditor, their relatives or their partners, can't be indebted to the company for more than 5 lakh rupees. It just makes sense, right? You can't be truly objective when you owe someone a chunk of money.
Okay, so we've got who's qualified and who's not. How does a company actually hire an auditor? Well, there's a very formal and structured process for that. For a brand new company, the process for the very first auditor is a little different depending on its type. For a regular non-government company, the board of directors has 30 days to pick someone. If they drop the ball, the shareholders step in. But for a government company, it's a different story. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India, the CAG, gets the first crack at it, and they have 60 days. There's a whole chain of command if the first choice fails.
After that first appointment, things settle into a regular rhythm. The process is clear. First, the auditor has to give their written consent. Then, the board recommends them to the shareholders. The final decision happens at the annual general meeting, or AGM. Once approved, it's all locked in by filing a special form, ADT-1, with the Registrar of Companies.
Now, here's a really important part. An auditor's job isn't a job for life, and there's a very good reason for that. To stop them from getting too comfortable or friendly with the company, which could compromise their judgment, the law requires auditor rotation. It's all about bringing in a fresh set of eyes. So for certain types of companies, here are the term limits. If you're an individual auditor, you can serve for 1 term of 5 years straight. If you're an audit firm, you can do 2 consecutive 5-year terms. So a total of 10 years.
And once that maximum term is up, that's it for a while. They can't just take a year off and come back. The law forces a mandatory cooling off period.
And that period is a full 5 years. It's a serious break, designed to make sure any old ties are completely cut before that auditor or firm could even be considered for the job again. But what if the relationship doesn't work out and ends before the term is up? Well, an auditor can be removed by the company or they can resign. But either way, the process is really strict. A company can't just fire its auditor on a whim. It takes a special resolution from the shareholders, and they need to get prior approval from the central government. Plus, the auditor has the right to state their case. On the flip side, if an auditor resigns, they can't just slip out the back door. They have to file a public form explaining exactly why they're leaving. It's all about transparency and accountability.
So when you step back and look at all these rules, the qualifications, the disqualifications, the appointments, the term limits, you realize they aren't just red tape. They all work together to build one thing: trust.
This really sums up their entire job. An auditor is there to examine a company's books and check for accuracy, transparency, and make sure everything is compliant with the law. They are the professional stamp of approval that lets us trust the numbers.
At the end of the day, this entire legal framework has 3 simple goals. Make sure the person checking the books is qualified to do the job, is completely independent while doing it, and is held accountable for their findings.
And that leaves us with one final thought. The rules are definitely strict, but they exist for a reason. It makes you ask, what's the real cost to investors, to employees, to all of us when that fundamental trust in a business gets broken? That's exactly what this entire system is built to prevent. Thanks for watching.